Good morning, YouTubers. Put out some questions to our Patreon and Instagram followers and got some good ones. So let's let one rip this morning. I've got my chicken coffee mug, 4.7 chickens ago, full of black coffee, and let's let it eat. So the first question comes from Pat Robinson. How to transition from hunt test season prep, and prep for hunting season. So transitioning from hunt tests to duck season, goose season is coming up. Great question. Pretty much what I start doing is integrating a lot more stuff at the line. So I'm revisiting dog stands. So instead of doing marks from my side like we would at a hunt test, I'm putting them in a ground blind. I'm putting them on a dog stand. I'm adding duck calls at the line. I'm adding the shotgun with primer poppers, the 12 gauge popper. So it's not the big field trial load or a huge heavy boom, but it's the popper. Okay. Empty hull, just a 209 with a shotgun shell attached to it. So, from anywhere from shooting 1 round to 3 rounds. Hey, we got another one, load it back up, talking and hooting and hollering, adding more excitement at the line. I'm shortening a lot of the marks up and varying the distances big time. So I'll don't have a name for it, but think of a W. So we'll do one long, one short, one long, one short, one long, one short, and really get them working through depth perception, but I'm bringing marks in on those real short ones for breaking purposes. Sit your butt down, be quiet, stay steady. But I also like to keep them stretched out too. So I don't want to lose that part, but I want to really integrate a lot more splash birds in their face. What else will we do? We'll in and out of the canoe, in and out of the boat. 2 dogs at once. So 1 in a ground blind, 1 on a dog stand. And if we do that little setup, we don't worry about the mark. So I'm not worrying about factors like I am when I'm doing a hunt test. I'm more worrying about steadiness and composure at the line. So let's say my bird thrower, or if you're using wingers or thunder launchers or whatever the case may be, those are out in the field, 2 dogs. We're hooting and hollering, duck calling, everybody's shooting, everybody's calling, everybody's talking to each other. All right, whose dog are we going to send now? All right, how about mine? Boom, send the dog. Throw the same mark. Oh my gosh, we got another one down. Who are we sending? Boom, the other dog. And you're working on honoring. You're just kind of making it duck doggy. So think about what they're going to see this season. Get your layout blind and put some decoys out and lay in a layout blind, or get your A-frame up. Spend a little bit of extra prep time making it duck hunty, and that'll make the dog think they're in the real thing versus holding blinds out in the field, more generic hunt testy where they're just sitting at your side and stuff like that. The handheld launcher that we sell at Lone Duck Outfitters, it's the DT launcher. That's a fun tool that can go far, as well as you can skip it across the ground, and it's really exciting. So I'll aim it kind of down, and that bumper's going to flip and flop and bounce all over the place, and you've got that loud crack of the 22 closer to the dog. So you're working on steadiness. I'm not worrying about the mark per se and how good is the mark. I'm worried about sit down, be quiet, maintain composure, building in loud noises and duck calling and hooting and hollering. I can do a lot of denials. I'll pop that thing off, walk out, pick it up, boom, shoot it from that spot. Walk out, pick it up, boom, shoot it from that spot. Walk out, aim it towards the dog and have it bounce and roll in front of their face or splash in the decoys. Boom, send the dog on that one. So really, really main focus is ultra steady, a lot more excitement, a lot more realism. And probably, even though I still have a few hunt tests left this fall, the dogs that are going to go home and hunt in October are getting 2 days a week of stuff like that. As we approach October, it's going to be every day. All the dogs that come back for like a preseason tune-up, that's pretty much what they're getting every day. Revisiting their obedience, walking on and off leash, nice, sit down and be quiet while I set things up, while I pitch a couple decoys out into the field and into the water. Run that dog. Now pick those couple decoys up, get the next dog out. Have that dog watch me put a couple decoys out. Send that dog, watch me pick them up. You know what I mean? Because one of the things, I'll never forget this story, and this will wrap up the episode. I had a master hunter I trained. First time duck hunting. It was already a master hunter. Been swimming and going through decoys for 2.5, 3 years. Owner throws out a bunch of decoys in the pond, shoots a duck at first light. Dog swims out, picks up a decoy 4 feet from the duck. It had stared at the decoys that he had thrown out as if it was a mark for hours, an hour. Let's just not over exaggerate. Let's say he sat there for a half an hour or 30, 40 minutes waiting for first light or a duck to come by. And it was staring down those decoys going, you threw me a bumper or a mark and I stayed steady. And now you say my name, I'm going to get that one. Okay. So I do practice having them watch me put some out and then throw a mark beyond the decoys so that they can put 2 and 2 together a little bit. But realistically, that's what we do. Appreciate the question, Pat Robinson 08. All right, this one is again from Pat. And I didn't read it right away while I was doing the first one, but it says, continued, what are things for owners to look for in health, safety, and hunting environments? Oh, man. So things I'm looking at, blue-green algae, early season, or, some people live in Louisiana and they've got an early teal season and it's hot as butt. Up here in New York, man, I'm looking at stumps, underwater sticks, debris. Like if you're hunting an old farm pond, beaver pond, that we used to hunt, I would worry about barbed wire that just kind of got tossed to the side. Some of the farmers clean up after themselves. Others just kind of push it into a brush pile and there it lays for 80 years. So I'm kind of just putting an eyeball on where we're hunting, how the dog's going to move from A to B to get birds, what's the likelihood of injury, health-wise and safety also would maybe come into mind for early season is heat problems. So dove season, goose season, we get those September 75, 85 degree days, very dry, very hot. The dove season down south is going to be warmer than that. So we want to make sure that they're hydrated, cool as best you can. Don't push them past their limits. Know the signs for heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Be pretty well versed in that. We've done videos on that in the past. Tongue really hanging out, kind of lethargic, not motivated to go. Everybody, there's going to be people who say like, my dog will go until they drop. Don't let them do that. Be smart. You're a human. They're a dog. If they're that driven, they won't stop. Other dogs are going to hit a wall and you can tell. Get them in the truck, cool them down with AC. So be smart about that. For colder temperatures, we're worried about hypothermia. So we keep them out of the water as long as possible. So I'm not letting them swim around while I'm placing decoys. I'm going to keep them on a dog stand or keep them in my boat. I'm going to do my best to keep them dry for as long as possible. And then when they are hunting, they need to remain dry. So if they go and get a bird and come back, they're able to get up out of the water, shake off, drip dry, and be cool. Because if let's say they're sitting, even if it's not that cold out, let's say the water is 65 degrees. That's pretty warm. But their body temperature is 101. So that's a 40-some degree swing, 35, 40 degree swing in temperature. And that cooler water is going to suck that core temperature down and down and down. So you could still have hypothermia happen on a balmy 60 degree, water 65 kind of day, especially if they're doing a bunch of marks and then they remain in the water and can't get out and get dry. So always put them on a dog stand. We use the Momar stand, the Invisilab, or the Final stand. Those are on the website, loneduckoutfitters.com. But if you don't have a dog stand and can get them out of the water, you need one. Think of other things like porcupines. So have some I always have a med kit in my blind bag. It doesn't have to be crazy. Again, actually, we sell those on loneduckoutfitters.com. You can have a little one that fits in your blind bag, or you can have a big one that just rides in your truck, maybe underneath your back seat type of thing. And we've got staplers, we got gauze, Neosporin, eye wash, seeds, things like that. There's other, if they're running through grasses, tall grasses like cattails or something to go get a duck. A lot of things you'll see during duck season is scratched corneas. So you kind of want to just be aware of the environment, the predicaments that you're putting them in. It's not going to stop me from sending a dog through the cattails to go get my duck, but I'm going to be aware and do a little after tailgate check. So, Pat, appreciate both your questions for the 7 Minutes in Heaven with your dear old Uncle Bob. This one was presented to you by OnX. Hunt where you stand. OnX, baby. Appreciate you. This one is presented to you by DT Systems. Dog tested, dog tough, baby. This one comes from Maddie 9118. How do you handle a pop during training? Just a one-off, not an everyday issue. Thank you. So a pop is when a dog is on a mark or a blind and they stop and look at you. We handle it kind of differently for different age dogs. Let's do a younger dog on a mark because they're not running blind yet. So let's say they can't find the bird and they pop. If you're using wingers, I'm going to make that winger make a little duck quack sound, or your remote release has sounds, beeps, quacks. You're going to make a little noise out in the field. If you have a bird thrower and helper, that bird thrower can help them out. Another thing you could do is salt and pepper the area, meaning if you're throwing a bumper in grass, have 5 or 6 bumpers scattered in that general vicinity of the fall area, and that dog kind of can't help but find one. You don't want to do it a ton because if they figure it out, then they're going to shop around and go get one and be like, oh, but I know there's a bunch out here, and then go look for others. But salt and pepper the area to build more confidence. The popping comes from lack of confidence or you over handling the dog. So now let's go into a blind running dog. If they pop on me in training, I just yell back. Especially if it's a one-off, like you had mentioned, there's no pressure involved. They're already, showing you a sign of confusion. So now we've got to kind of diagnose the pop. And we talked about it last night on our Patreon happy hour, which, if you guys aren't on it already, patreon.com/Lone Duck Outfitters. It's our community where I can coach folks one-on-one. And then twice a month, we do a Zoom meeting for an hour where I can rip through questions like this. So hop on there. But we got to diagnose a pop. Is it just, like you said, a one-off? I don't make a big deal out of it. Just yell back. You don't cast because that's what they're looking for. I just yell back, and it's got to go somewhere. I don't care if it's going this way and then zooms off this way. You got to let them ride a little bit. Let them carry that cast. They did the right thing and left. After a few seconds, beep, put them back online. They've just got to feel good about running into no man's land. So the diagnosis, are you stopping the dog too much? So maybe you're doing too short of blinds and you're tick, 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 ticky-tacking them to the blind, holding them really tight to a line. And now they go out and do a longer one and they haven't heard a ticky-tack whistle. And so they're like, he's been blowing the whistle a lot and I haven't heard one. Let me go check. Pressure, perceived pressure. Maybe yesterday you kind of got into their butt a little bit with the e-collar on some bad casts. And now today they're like a little weary and you need to build them back up a little. What else? Popping. Maybe your blinds are too tight. Maybe you need to separate them out a little bit. Maybe you need to stretch them back out a little bit. Let them roll. Let them build that confidence. We're not here to win the hunt test or field trial training. So again, I'm going to let them carry casts a little bit more and let them flow through the field like this versus beep, 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 beep. You want to let them roll a little bit. So, anyways, that's how I handle it. If it becomes a problem, I may back Nick back. And as they pump out of there, back. And it's like a timing thing. So I like to get them going. So back. And they start to go and go back. And you give them a little en route juice, just a little bit. Because it could also backfire and have them sit. And that shows me that they don't fully comprehend the en route force or the back Nick back comment or command. But yeah, so that's how I would handle it. I hope that answered your question, Maddie. All right. This one is brought to you by Kent. Bismuth, baby. Duck season's rolling around, and I can't wait to let it eat with the bismuth, baby. This question comes from Scorched Moose Outdoors. I think my eyes are good enough to say Scorched Moose. All right. Teaching versatile breeds to be a duck dog. This question comes in a good bit for all you drop tars and wire hairs and Vizslas and Weimaraners and German short-haired pointers and all the other funny, versatile breeds. Listen, in the past, when I was a dog, up-and-coming dog trainer, I would train any breed. Anything that the check would clear, I'd train it. That was my joke. If the check clears, I'll train it. And so I got to work with a lot of versatile breeds, all of the ones that I just named, and turned them into duck dogs. You're fitting a square peg through a round hole. They are versatile, but there are in that versatility, some lean one way and some lean the other. So a lot of the dogs that have heavy point in them have less retrieve drive and less willingness and desire and natural instinct for it. And then you've got other ones that are heavy on this, but they don't point as, instinctually. It just takes kind of figuring your dog out, and whether it is more heavy on point, it doesn't mean it can't be a great retriever. So honestly, I just would train them the same as a Labrador. Every dog is different. I've got to train the dog that is in front of me, but the tactical ways are the same. We're doing marks. We're teaching them how to stretch out and mark accurately. So things like the ABC drill, things like the Y drill, walking a lot of walking singles on land, getting them to mark accurately instead of going German short hair on you and running 50 yards and then just doing a gigantic hunt in the field. And then, I stumbled upon my duck or my bumper. So you're just teaching them how to mark and making it fun. These kind of breeds are very independent. That's what makes them good at finding birds out in the fields and in the woods. They're independent. They don't need you. They need their nose. And so we've got to kind of make it we just got to kind of have them unlock a little bit of instinct elsewhere and have it be fun, where it is our idea to be steady. It is our idea to go and retrieve and deliver to hand. It is our idea, but really you're trying to unlock it so it's their idea to be very good. The other thing is, for all of these versatile breeds, it's imperative to build excellent water attitude as a young puppy. Some of the ones that I've had in the past were bears to get into the water and have them enjoy it. And again, that's where they ended up being great pointing dogs, but they didn't really excel at duck hunting. They were good enough to get by, but they didn't excel at it. Those would be the puppies that are you got to get them in the water as early as possible, as long as the water temperatures are good and the conditions are right. You can watch all the YouTube videos on how we introduce puppies to water. But if I knew that I was getting a German short hair, I'd be getting that sucker in the water as soon as possible. And I'd be making water the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'd make retrieving the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then you just got to be aware, man, in New York, my best bud and hunting buddy, Nick, has Huey, UT Prize 1 nabbed a dog. Nick doesn't hunt Huey probably past mid-November. The water's cold, the air's cold. He's got a small, short coat, and he just gets cold and miserable. And so he gets to hunt him early season, and then basically just grouse and pheasant hunts with them the rest of the year. And so, that's the downfall of the versatile breeds. Okay, maybe you've got a wire hair pointing Griffon or a Drott that's coat is a little more hardy, but still, you're kind of looking at, it's going to give you limitations as a duck dog. And just, if you know that and that's okay with you, let her rip, tater chip. So anywho, Scorched Moose Outdoors, appreciate the question on versatile dogs being duck dogs. This is brought to you by Purina Pro Plan. The food that fuels the truck alone duck. All right, this question comes from Mossy Oak, Mighty Quinn. What does an average training day look like for a dog in training? Great question. Appreciate it. It varies on skill level. So if you send a 6-month-old black Labrador puppy to me and it's going to be here for the 4-month gun dog program, they are pretty heavy in training. They get a lot of reps. And one of the things we've talked about on the podcast, a boatload, is short sessions multiple times throughout the day. So they don't have the attention span to do 20 minutes of marks. You're not throwing them 15 or 20 marks in a session. But we're doing 3 to 5 minute sessions multiple times through the day. So what does my average day look like? They get up in the morning and go potty. Then they're going through some obedience, place work, heel, sit, hear, treat, train, get them going. Then as they progress through that, their first thing in the morning is collar conditioning through those same things. Then you rotate through that group of dogs, and by the time you're done doing that group of dogs, that one that you started with is ready to start force fetch. So we start with hold. So now by 9 a.m., they've gotten 2 sessions today of obedience and force fetch. Then we go to the field, they get landmarks and watermarks, in most likely separate sessions. So we're going to knock out land first. They go work on their marking ability, depth perception, marking accuracy, building into steadiness on and off of dog stands and ground blinds, working around decoys. Boom. Then later in the afternoon, they're going to get a set of watermarks. So they're getting 3 to 5 sessions of 3 to 10 minutes or 15 minutes a day in each, depending on those situations. For the bigger dogs, or let's talk transition. So now we got dogs that are done with force fetch, collar conditioning, all that. They start their day on T-pattern and handling drills, wagon wheel, lining paths, the handling Y drill. Again, we've got a video on YouTube that explains that one. And so they're doing some sort of handling first thing in the morning, and then they go out in the field and they're working on what they're working on for marks and land and water. So they're getting 3 sessions, but it's mentally difficult. They've got a lot to process and figure out. I would say most days, everybody's getting marks. I think marking is of the utmost importance. It also is the thing that they love the most. And so if you're doing hard things, force fetch, collar conditioning, T-pattern, learning how to run a blind, that's hard and mentally stressful for a dog. That's got to be balanced out with something that is fun, and that's marking. So marks are amazing to teach marking ability, but it's also great at keeping that attitude high and positive vibes all throughout the day. Now for the older dogs, swim by, right? So that transition period, also they're getting swim by. Then the older dogs, they may get, my goal is 2 sessions a day, but sometimes we only get 1. But that one is probably going to be a humdinger. Long, hard, again, mentally challenging, physically challenging. And then most days, I would say at least 3 days a week, at the end of the day, their dogs are getting a 4-wheeler ride. Again, blow off steam, cardio, let them be a dog, and just keep them having fun, air it out, let them be a dog. So that's what a typical day in the life of a dog here is. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, balancing act of all that to maintain positive attitude. And you got to have like your process in place. So I'm not going, what should we do today? Well, let's just do this. No, it's got to have structure to it, and it's got to have an end goal. I'm not trying to make the dog better today. I'm trying to make it a little better by the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the program. So little baby increments of progress throughout their stay, and holy cow, 4 months later, you got a dang duck dog on your hands, or a year later, you got a dog that's running master setups, and it may not be ready to run a master test, but holy cow, it can do a triple and run a blind behind the gun of a bird thrower and under the arc, and, you know, it kind of hacks it up, but holy cow. And how fun will that dog be to hunt with? So, anywho, Mossy Oak, Mighty Quinn, we appreciate that question. Everybody who tuned in, we appreciate you. So cheers to you. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for tuning in.